Okay, good afternoon. All welcome for this symposium on health and safety in a digital future. We did a tryout session where everybody of you, the whole audience, got a virtual reality glasses to have really the look and the feel of the presentations, but that didn't turn out so well because a lot of people got sick, so we decided today to stick to the traditional presentations. But anyway, I will hope you get a glimpse of some of the digital possibilities offered in nowadays world to improve workers' health and safety. And I am Chris de Meester from the Federation of Enterprises in Belgium, the umbrella business federation in Belgium, dealing with all health and safety related affairs. In Belgium we call that well-being at work. And I also am the voice of the employers at the European level, and today representing also the international organization of employers. So I work at the three levels, the national, the European continental, let's say, and the worldwide level. Quick introduction before we turn to our interesting speakers. So you see, we zoom into the building where we are now. And then a lot of what the discussion is all about, as soon as you use the words digital and AI, is, are we really living, experiencing a work revolution, a revolution of work? And normally I ask people in the room, can you tell me a clear moment in your recent past where digital technology completely or very clearly changed your work? And I could do it now, but I know the answer already. Not a lot of hands go up. So for me, that's clear. It's more of a constant evolution. And we're all at different points in time. Some organizations are more advanced, others are not. And that is what I wanted to say in the next slide. This new world of work, or the current world of work, is full of paradoxes. And just one example of what I just said, a still of companies are still operating as if it was 1975. Others are pretty much advanced, but a lot of them are still operating like that. And my guess is in 10, 20 years from now, a lot of businesses will still be operating as they did in the past. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Our message of today is please explore the possibilities and the opportunities. Another paradox is about, will jobs disappearing because of robotization, because of AI, because of digital technology? And the thing is, it's relatively easy to predict which jobs will be affected or which tasks, but it's very hard to imagine what the newly created jobs will be. And we know from data there are still more jobs created in the digital world than jobs or tasks disappear. So another paradox there. And also a bit a paradox, maybe not a paradox, people from the health and safety community, if you have the technology, if you have the means to replace for people working in dirty, dull, heavy jobs, repetitive, unhealthy or dangerous environments, why would you not do so? Because that's the hierarchy of preventions, no? With some examples, but there will be more in the presentations of the speakers, of course. Then the thing is, how do we do this? What is our approach, suggested approach, from the employer's perspective? And our proposal is, as I said, see it as an opportunity. If you start looking into the challenges and the threats, there are, let's be clear, but if you do that, it's like the Pareto principle. You will invest a lot of effort with very little results. It's better than our approaches, suggested approaches, immediately put up all the efforts to explore the opportunities. And if you do that in a jointly managed way, a jointly managed process, employers, workers together at the workplace, looking into not only the actual jobs, the job content, but also looking into the work organization, in the working conditions, the working relations even, how you relate with your peers, with your management, with clients. If you do all that from a jointly managed perspective and look into the opportunities that digital technologies have to offer to improve the jobs, to improve the working conditions, to improve the work relations, then you will be halfway there. So looking at the actual jobs, the digital workspace, and that is more than just a digital access to documents. There is a lot of other stuff out there. It's about the work organization, allocation of people, equipment, resources, managing coactivity. It's about exploring opportunities to improve the work environment, the working conditions, the equipment itself. With some examples here: intelligent materials, advanced composites, site access, the working conditions itself, tracking, measuring, monitoring, predictive maintenance, wearables, health screening. Some examples again. As I said, this is just the introduction. I will leave it to the speakers. Also an important one when we talk about some hazards, turning the invisible into visible without real-life risk. I think that is an obvious opportunity for all of us. So working relations, I mentioned it, the use of digital technology to improve communication. And of course, there is downsides here. We all know some people have problems with disconnecting and the always-on culture. But at the same time, if used well, digital technologies can actually improve communication and can improve working relations. So this is what's happening now in the world of work. There was for a while a big focus on behavior-based face safety. That focus is still there, but we have an add-on, an extra layer there. We do not just solely rely on the behavior of people. We do not shift the responsibility to the individual, because we can add a layer of tech-driven safety. And technology doesn't compromise. People can. So people can turn off certain protections, etc. The technology will not compromise and will protect. So this is the next level. Still focusing on behavior, on a preventative culture, but adding a layer of technology to prevent incidents, accidents, diseases, etc. And the last element of our strategy to get there, I said jointly managed process. That means built upon a layer of trust and respect, and also the communication. It has to be a genuine conversation between the management and the workers, not just top-down, not just bottom-up, but top-down meets bottom-up, genuine conversation. And then, regardless of the threats and the challenges associated to digital technologies, you will grasp the opportunities. So actually what we're trying to do is building a great place to work, and the bottom line is how to create a digitalized, tech-driven organization where people, workers, are able and willing to perform their best work. So aiming for a great place to work, and we will get some examples of that, because with this picture just taken last week, I will now turn to our first speaker, Ross Tratui, coming from construction industry. I'm not going to give details on what exactly he does, because that's part of his presentation. So big round of applause for Ross.
Thank you, Chris. So my intent over the next 10 minutes is to take you through some of the digital tools and technologies and augmentation that's currently here in Australia in the construction industry, and then provide some thoughts on where this is going from a technology point of view and how that might get us to more predictive data in relation to health and safety. But before I do, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. So to I suppose, get you aligned with construction, there are some quick statistics and other pieces of information here for background. So as you can see, it's one of the largest industries in the globe. It's 13% of the world's GDP, which is about $13 trillion US dollars. In Australia, it generates about $360 billion in revenue each year, about 9% of GDP, and it's predicted to grow to 2.4 or 2.5% over the next 5 years. Interestingly, by 2030, 60% of the world's population will live in cities, growing to 70% by 2050. So I'm sorry to say, people, more construction that you're going to have to deal with. And from a statistical point of view, if we look at injuries and fatalities, it's not a great performer. So around 27 fatalities in 2022 and roughly around 30 on average each year over the past 5 years. And the serious injury claims are around 12,500 a year. So whilst we've improved over the last decade quite dramatically, there used to be 50 fatalities a year, we've still got a long way to go, and my argument would be that the performance appears to have plateaued. Interestingly, R&D, so research and development, it's very low. So it's around 1.4% when you compare it to aerospace and financial services. And that's because it's a low profit industry. You might think otherwise. You might think they're mega millions of dollars, these projects, but they're not. Profits generally range between 3 and 4% after tax. So my proposition for this workshop really is that the digital tools and technologies will better inform upstream design and planning, and the use of IoT and other data will help us improve and predict more downstream activity from a health and safety point of view and improve our overall position. So I'm going to touch on 4 key areas. So BIM, or Building Information Modelling, which is a collaborative 3D digital design system used by the building industry, robotics and some of the robots that we're starting to see come to construction most recently in the last 5 years, and the Internet of Things, so sensors and all manner of other things that are starting to appear in the construction industry. I'm going to talk about digital threads and a digital lake, and I'll explain what that is when we get to it, but how we classify and analyse IoT data, because at the moment everything comes to me on a telephone and it's all disparate. It's not joined up. And so we'll talk about the big picture. So what's the big picture look like in respect to the data lake and how we fish from the data lake and provide more predictive outcomes for health and safety and use the digital tools and technologies to help us along the way. So BIM. It's an end-to-end structured 3D modelling tool that's been around for 20 years and was the saviour of the industry when it was first launched. It's taken a long time to pick up and I suppose become the norm, but it is, as you can see from the pictorials on the screen, it picks up on building and construction, it picks up on infrastructure, and more recently it's been used for temporary works, because there are a lot of temporary works that go on in the construction industry in terms of supporting structures in their temporary state and so on. Take-up has gone from about 27% to 58% over the last decade, so it's still not firmly entrenched in the industry. And the original intent was really around informing the whole design process in a collaborative way, getting all the designers on board, but the ultimate goal was end-use operations and maintenance of a structure. I would argue that probably hasn't been realised, because the uniformity of the data through BIM and other software packages that integrate with BIM is not where it should be, and the international standard on ISO 19650 is working on a uniform framework around that, but in my mind we're a little away from that. So as a result, the construction industry has really picked this up as a digital tool to work through design, particularly in complex and large structures. And there's a few photos that we'll have a look at. But the little timber building on the bottom of your screen there is in the precinct just here. It was entirely modelled in BIM. It has a timber wraparound. It's quite colloquially called the bird's nest. For obvious reasons, and it was quite a difficult build, but using BIM on this particular building, we were able to model what I would call macro simulations, so where the crane is going to go, so where we put the loading platforms, which are the yellow dots up the floors there, how we integrate the crane with public safety, how we zone the crane, how we load the job through the loading platforms and so on. And it's quite a complex little building because the floors actually go in and out as it goes up. And the ultimate Japanese-style architect was the wraparound timber at the end. So what you can see is the macro simulations there in the screen in the middle photograph, and that's just some of those that went on. This was one of my projects, by the way. And the other on the right is more of a trade-specific task around how we actually secured the timber to the building in a safe manner with scaffolds and other things. So taking away from what would normally be a safe work method statement with voluminous words in it, we use pictorials plucked out of BIM to inform the work trades on what that process looks like. So if you're non-English speaking or you're not good at reading and so on, it's pictorial and it can be in 3D, and we take the project team, or in this case the facade installer, through that particular process. So I would highlight, just while I'm still on BIM, that the Centre for Work Health and Safety has some really good information on BIM and integration with health and safety here in Sydney on their website, and there was some quite in-depth research done on the integration of health and safety using BIM and the benefits that flow out of that. So on to robots. What's happening in construction? Well, they are many and varied. I've gone too far. Someone might be able to take me back one slide. Thank you. Obviously drones are pretty common these days, and for structures like wharves or bridges where you might have had to put scaffold in place and spend 2 weeks building the scaffold so you could put an engineer in to survey the bridge, you can do that in a matter of days with a drone because of the optics and the ability to analyse the data and determine and just survey the bridge or the wharf or whatever structure it might be. I've used them for high-rise buildings to look at the integrity of edge protection on high-rise buildings, use them at night for infrared and other various uses that are emerging as we speak. The Boston Dynamics dog on the right, top right, interesting. It's being used here in Australia in the rail environment, so high-risk rail corridors where you like not to put human beings, but the dog has 360-degree optics, 30 times zoom, can walk up and down stairs, it can walk up and down sloping ground, it can ride itself if it has a slip, trip or fall, and you can strap packs to the body of the robot that are specific to hazardous chemicals detection or radiation detection or whatever it might be. It can pick up things, it can pull things back to a determined location and so on. Pretty amazing piece of kit out of Boston Dynamics. The other one is a robot that's in use in lift shafts in Sydney here at the moment by Schindler. The robot actually works its way up, or down rather, down the lift shaft in a high-rise building, and it drills all the holes for the lift rails and it can insert the bolts. So completely autonomous, and it's in use here as we speak. Schindler brought it into Australia, I would say about 4 years ago, and it's been in use since. The other one on the right there is something called the J-Bot. If you think about all the services that have to be hung from concrete soffits on every single floor in a high-rise building, you have to drill hundreds, if not, and sometimes thousands of holes into that concrete to hang rods and to hang services. The J-Bot is semi-autonomous, can work its way through using the BIM model. Same with the Schindler robot, it uses the BIM model to understand where it drills and even detect reo in the walls, reinforcement. Same with the J-Bot, it can use the BIM model to understand exactly where the holes need to be drilled. There's no one up there on a ladder or a scaffold drilling holes into concrete where you've got occupational health issues around silicosis and silica from the concrete when you drill it. So it's got a vacuum device on it that actually removes the dust. Pretty nifty, all of them are in use. The hexapod, there's a lot of crawly things around. I haven't actually personally trialled any of those crawly type robots, but you know, for use in hazardous chemical storage, they can read labels and do all sorts of things. On the top right is a sensor that tells me about the real time about the maturity of the concrete and the strength of the concrete, so it informs the building process. Before I go to the next level of loading up that concrete slab, I can be assured through real-time data that it's reached its required strength. That's an innovation from a supply chain contractor. The bottom one on the left there is a formwork structure about 4 stories high in a tunnel here in Sydney, and it's depicting the sensors that we put in the formwork to tell us the hydrostatic pressure of the concrete, the wet concrete, as it's poured into the form. So the last thing you want is a blowout in formwork, because it'll kill someone, and there's generally people around these pours when they happen. So this tells us real-time data on what's happening in that form, and whether the hydrostatic pressure is as per the engineer's detail, and they're not pouring the form too quickly. So quite innovative from a sensor point of view, an IoT point of view. And the last one there on the right is, again, one of my projects, mega columns here in Sydney on a metro station. The column is about 20 metres long, it weighs about 30 tonne, and it's about 1.8 round. They're mega columns to go into a station structure. So again, using BIM in that particular element. So the data lake. So what I'm suggesting is there's lots of data that's pouring in from all these sensors and information, and a lot of it is available through real-time on phones, computers, whatever that might be. But you can see there's a lot of interrelationships that I've attempted to draw there around, health and safety and other things that come out of that data. And the idea is that the data needs to be classified so it can all end up in what I would call a data lake, and then be analysed and perhaps provide us with predictive analytics as opposed to downstream. The big picture is that, exactly. It's the collection of all that data and how we actually analyse that data. Reading a paper just recently, there's 20 million bits of sensors that have been connected to the internet since 2022, and most of those are in the manufacturing industry. So data is important on how we make predictions about future events. And finally, I'll leave you with these particular notes, but there's a few issues that I guess arise, or challenges if you like. The absence of unified data is a problem. So ISO, that should be 19650, not 360. So 19650 is a standard that's not called up by many governments, for example in Australia, where it should be if we're going to join up all the data up. BIM estimated use is about 58%, that's after 2 decades. Supply chain and digital aptitude is always a challenge, whether the supply chain wants to get on board. Construction is quite different in every project, so what's that look like from a data lake point of view? And ultimately, we're trying to get to integrate past events with future monitoring events that go on a construction site to provide more predictive analytics about, all sorts of things from which health and safety flows out the pipe at the end. Thank you.
I saw many of you already know the drill. There is a Congress app. You can put questions there. You can upvote questions. We will take a couple of questions at the end. But now I suggest we go to the next speaker, and I will turn now to Jennifer Lowe. She is a Director, Health and Safety and Worker Compensation at the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And one of the particular questions that I would like Jennifer to zoom in on is, how do we get the small and medium-sized enterprises into this story? How can we convince them of also trying to grasp the benefits, the opportunities linked to digital technologies? Up to you.
Thank you, Chris. So what I want to talk about and focus in on is augmented technology. There is a lot of other technology we could talk about, and Ross definitely covered some of them. My other colleagues will talk to that. But I'm going to focus much more on augmented tech in this session. So there's no doubt that digital technology is definitely how we are going to leap forward in terms of reducing the number of health and safety incidents, because we've kind of become a little bit stagnant in terms of particularly in developed countries, so speaking on behalf of Australia, we've had a pretty stable fatality and incident rate, and certainly return to work, workers' comp rates have been fairly stable. So for me, I really see digital technology as the way that we can start to push that forward and bring the fatalities and incidents down and really increase the return to work rates and injury management rates. In 2018, Safe Work Australia did a report with CSIRO, and it was called Workplace Safety Futures. And one of the big megatrends coming out of the report was automation and digital technology. Certainly they couldn't have predicted COVID, and their timelines were perhaps a bit out, but we've seen COVID very much increase the rate of technical adoption. And I'd perhaps call that the silver lining. So in Australia, we had a lot of governments decide that QR codes and apps and sign-ins was the way to manage a lot of the risk and collect the health information required. So people really had to quickly understand how QR codes worked, how technology worked, and so we saw a rapid adoption of that type of tech in particular, as well as the Teams and the Zoom and the virtual meeting tech. So they're the ones that we saw accelerate. When we think about technology and health and safety, the issue that I see that we're really going to have a dedicated strategy for is how do we increase awareness of the different tech. So on the screen you'll see, and again keep in mind I'm only really looking at augmented technology, there are so many different subcategories of augmented technology. Quick question, I guess, to the audience so I can get a better sense. How many of you in your workplace have adopted one of these types of augmented technology or more, not including the mobile device category, because hopefully everyone's including that. So can you put your hand up if you're using exoskeletons or wearables? Not many. Yeah. So that tends to be what we see in terms of the global statistics. In Australia, certainly we're very good at adopting the lower level tech across the board. So we've seen a lot more technology adopted around platform use and digital data type software, but we're not really looking at the advanced technology. We're not aware necessarily of the wearable tech, the sensors, how we can think about using them proactively to solve safety and health problems. So what I want to go through quickly in my 10 minutes is a couple of case examples, and I'm going to start really at the lower end in terms of what SMEs are looking at. So behind me there's a QR code where you can get a bit of a demo, and what I'm looking at here is a SaaS, so a platform tech, and this was designed for residential construction. So over COVID, we saw a lot of construction really looking at having to use QR codes in order to manage the risks, the health COVID-associated risks on site. And so they became familiar with the technology. And that was certainly jumped upon to make sure how can we, utilise that and start to put all of our induction systems, checklists, investigation, toolbox talks, for instance, and turn that all digital. So those on site could have immediate access to those relevant policies and procedures, or could have real-time data coming through. So they really jumped on that, and certainly we've seen good statistics coming out of that use in terms of effective training and on-site inductions and the ability to translate a lot of the materials. So that's something that's particularly relevant when we have industries that have a high migrant workforce. Sorry, just let me grab some water. That we can translate the policies and procedures, because there's no point having it in English when the majority of your workers don't speak English or can't read. And so looking at numeracy literacy rates is also important. So this way you can create visuals, you can create translated documents. If we move on to more medium, large size companies, So I have a few examples from Amazon that I really want to explore because I myself wasn't very familiar with wearable tech. I work in an office. I'm very good at, the psychological, psychosocial hazards, not so much manufacturing, agricultural or other industries. And so I was really interested to see the technology that they're introducing. And here we have the robotic tech vest wearable technology, which is used at the Amazon robotics facilities. So there's over 750,000 Amazon robots that are used in fulfillment centres to move products around the floor. It's quick, it's highly repetitive tasks, and they do the heavy lifting for the employees. But what happens when they break down? It's a fast-moving, fast-paced environment. If a robot breaks down, that could create problems for the flow, for productivity. But then you need a human technician to go out on the floor and to fix that robot. So they looked at the robotic safety vest. So the vest uses AI and sensors to send signals to other robots on the floor, and that diverts them away from the person entering. So it reconfigures the flow of the floor and allows that technician to enter safely, to fix the robot and to exit. And it keeps things moving in an efficient manner. Next, I have here an example of a cobot. So, interestingly, I had this debate with a colleague about what is a cobot. The official definition is a collaborative robot. So they tend to work with humans, and that is the idea of all augmented technology. It's not eliminating the human, it's designed to work and enhance the human and their capabilities. So I'll just play a video for you on this.
The name of the robot that I work with is Robin, which stands for robotic induction. They took the ROB for robot and the IN from induct in order to make Robin. When people ask me if robots are going to take over our jobs, I always respond no. You can't take away the human element from the robots, and even then, you need someone to fix them. Here we have about 50 human associates, and then we have around 20 to 30 robotic associates. It's super cool. They help us out in order to sort our packages, and they're like team members to us. We have nicknames for the Robins. We call them pretty much our buddies.
So that is the Robin. What I really like about it, and I think for me the biggest takeaway in talking to different industries, different business sizes, is their motivation for the tech and then how they do it. So with the SMEs, like I said, we tend to see the lower end technology adopted, and we have really different challenges there. So things like digital literacy, skills and using that tech are more, and even internet connection, surprisingly, on site. You might not get such good internet connection, particularly in the regions in Australia, if anyone's tried to travel out to any of our regions. So that is one of the challenges they face in this kind of environment, and certainly for the larger businesses, they're different challenges, they're different issues that we're coming up against. What I like to see is when they really utilise the safety engineers and the multidisciplinary teams, because they can. They have those teams. They have the safety division, the legal, the engineering, and this is what I particularly liked about all of Amazon's example, is they've brought those in to help design safety into the process from the start, and they've looked at what is the problem from a safety perspective that we're trying to solve, and then fitting technology to it. Because what I've seen go really badly, I guess, is when bigger corporations go, robots look cool, we want to, be advanced, we want to lead the charge, and they buy a whole fleet of robots, go to implement them and realise they have no one who knows how to use those robots. Potentially the labelling is in another language, so they can't understand it, and then they have no one to maintain those robots, and they just end up sitting in the corner covered in plastic. And that's a common occurrence because they're trying to keep up with the latest tech and then retrofit their operations to incorporate it, rather than looking at what are the productivity gains, solutions, what are the challenges we're trying to address, and then explore what are all of the technology options we could look at and what will work best for us based on our skills, capability, budget, etc. So another one, oh, sorry, I'm just going, sorry, are you able to go back one for me, please? Is sensor safe. And again, this is looking at the particular challenge for Amazon at this time was around grocery logistics. So they have a lot of really large industrial freezers, and you can imagine the hazards that go along with that. People working alone, obviously you're in really extreme cold environments, stress-related hazards, and so they looked at fitting the technology solution to their particular challenge. And here it was an IoT-based solution using radio frequency identification. And the last one I want to show you, because we're in Australia and autonomous machinery is, you know, our big calling card and in the mining sector. So this is an example from Fortescue. And I think it's a really good one, again, because they had the in-house capability. They went external originally and said, how do we fix this problem? So in their case, it was looking at heavy mining equipment, interacting with light mining equipment vehicles, and they had a number of near misses. So they went external to the market and said, do you have any sensor tech or IoT technology that we could use to help reduce the frequency of these near misses? All the solutions were upwards of, you know, a unit $40,000 plus. They've ended up designing technology that comes in at around $4,000 a unit, is developed in-house, and because it was designed by their team in consultation with their safety engineers, their workers, there's been really good buy-in. They've managed to deploy it to site much more quickly than they would have if they'd brought in external tech. And I'll just quickly play this video. It doesn't have sound. So as they're going along, that windrow is not normally there. It's just used for testing. And what happens is the vehicles are equipped with a vehicle-to-everything technology that enables the vehicles to sense each other within certain pre-programmed proximities. So if you're familiar with mining, you've got the 50-20-10 rule. They have programmed their vehicles to automatically brake within 50 metres of each other. There are some other issues associated with that in terms of the drive. If you do have a physical driver in a car and the automatic brakes go on, it can be a bit of a physical force problem, but there are ways around those, so I'm not going to go into that. But they have looked at all the different angles, and so far it's proving a very effective technology. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Our next speaker, this time we go to Turkey, and the question here is Dennis Karakash. The question here is because he's coming from an employer organization that developed a Journey to Zero project, and my question to him is, what made you decide as an employer organization to develop such a project, and how did you get the support of your members?
Thank you very much, Chris, for the introductory question. This question basically gives me a chance to give you an answer about how and why an employer organization such as ourselves focusing so much on occupational health and safety technology before providing some details about our project, of course. Basically, maybe I can provide you some introductory information about our confederation so that you can understand the landscape in this project. Our confederation is representing 10,000, more than 10,000 of Turkish employers. Those employers are coming from a variety of manufacturing industries, and basically they are the bigger, larger companies in Turkey, not the small ones. Through those member firms, we are creating more than 1/4 of the national GDP, and also we are creating more than half, maybe approximately half of the Turkish exports. So it's a quite powerful organization, and maybe I can add that this organization, this confederation, has established a foundation back in 1985, focusing on microsurgery and reconstruction. This is a medical term, I know, but The basic idea is to provide medical support for the occupational health and safety related accidents and providing rehabilitation for the victims. But nowadays we are much more focused on prevention, because providing medical support, we are still, by the way, providing medical support, but this is the very last end of the process, and we are more and more focusing on the very first stages of this process, I would say. So maybe I can start with this mindset change at the Confederation or at Turkey. This is, by the way, aligned with, of course, with the global changes. I can maybe mention this about an evolution of the workplace safety. We are, all the employers are much more focused, were much more focused for workplace safety, and were much more focused on physical hazards, and they were basically, providing management-led initiatives, like reactive initiatives, at the first place. But nowadays, the transition is from safety work to safety of work itself. So nowadays we are much more focused on well-being of the workers. We are much more focused on physical, mental, and also emotional health of the employees. And also we are trying to include the employees in the process and trying to be much more proactive, I would say, rather than a reactive. So we came up with the idea of this project. By the way, we are calling Turkey is Turkey right now. This is the Turkish original name. Turkey's Journey to Zero project. And I know you are familiar with those statistics, but this is a very basic statistic. Globally, almost 3 million people lose their lives every year, and many more people actually suffering from injuries. And this is also creating a impact in terms of economical impact as well. So we have decided to design a project all together with the social partners. We worked together with the government, obviously. Also, we worked together with the labor unions to design this project. And maybe I can answer Chris's introductory questions, the second part, how we get support from the member firms. Basically, we provided incentive to get support from the member firms. Because basically, by the way, we have a really good state-of-art technology center in Istanbul. This technology center is working together with the World Economic Forum and considered as a lighthouse, as a center for Industry 4.0 transformation. And we are providing demos, and we are providing technologies, and we are providing solutions to our member firms so that they can check those technologies at the center, and if they want to implement those projects, we are helping them. But we are also obviously providing occupational health and safety technologies over there. And most of the companies says that they want to try those technologies, but the costs and also sometimes the hassle or the complications about the implementation is a problem for those member firms. So we basically push them to try this technology by providing them maybe like 90% of the costs for the first 3 years of the usage, so that they can use the technology by themselves to see if it's working or not. So basically we choose computer vision AI to implement in this technology to decrease the unfortunate statistics in Turkey. Basically, this computer vision AI technology let us help us with this transition from reactive to proactive, because computer AI technology is providing real-time data, and basically this real-time data is really empowers the EHS teams at the companies, so that those EHS teams can talk with data, they can talk with facts, they can talk with evidence with their own top managements as well, so that they can take action at the companies. This system basically providing us 24/7 real-time leading safety indicators instead of the lagging safety indicators. So I will go into details about the software for this part of my presentation. But if I need to explain this technology in just a couple of words, I would say that this is like seeing the unseen for us. So basically, we are using the already established camera infrastructure at the manufacturing plants, and with those camera feeds, the algorithm can see the unseen and can create alerts, real-time alerts for the companies, so that they can take action. Time to value is very important. So this technology is creating almost real-time alerts in microseconds maybe, so that they can take action immediately if there is something going on risky at the manufacturing plants. And basically, the main point of this software is, creating actionable data for the EHS teams. I will provide you some examples from our project. Those are only some chosen examples. We have like more than 50 ready-to-use safety use cases right now, and it's increasing nowadays. But this is only one example. For instance, this example, this worker is working on the moving roller belt. He shouldn't be there, and this system is just checking the limitation areas, and the system can create an alert for the company to get in. Another example is from climbing on shelves or climbing on something. Sometimes it's machinery or something else. This example, you can see that a person is climbing that shelf to get something, and taking action after those alerts are very important. So in this case, the company has established a moving ladder platform for those shelves so that they can just reach those shelves easier. I mean, you can obviously see this in a traditional way, but sometimes you cannot see that kind of basic things on the field. But the system basically can understand the heights and can understand the alerts such as this. So this is another example. This is maybe a funny one. This guy is walking on the machines from machine to machine to get some quick adjustments for the machines. So actually, the company has provided retrainings for the staff to not to do that, obviously. And they got, I think, more than 20 alerts for a day for similar cases at this company. So they are not getting that kind of alerts right now. So this is an improvement for them. This is another example about entering the crane area. The algorithm can understand the payloads and the payload's movement and can understand the danger zone close to the payload. If the worker here working very closely to the payload, and the system can create an alert for this as well, so that you can take action again. Those examples are mostly about the occupational safety part, but we are also focusing on occupational health part as well. For instance, this system can also provide you some examples about the ergonomics at the site as well, like this one. You can see a person here and doing an action which is not ergonomic, and it can create some back problems. Actually, as the Confederation, we also have a program about providing complementary medical insurance for the companies, and rehabilitation costs, physical therapy costs about the back injuries is like the most cost-creating item for us. This is another example about vehicle operation zone, and you can see that the user can easily click and select the area so that the system can check for vehicles and for pedestrians, obviously, easily, and they can understand that if there is an issue or not. The system can also provide you some data about heat maps or pathways so that you can check your layouts and you can take action to change your layouts to create a safer zone for your workers at the site. So basically, I think the ease of use and ease of implementation is critical for this project, because we have implemented these projects for almost like 200 different manufacturing plants right now in a year, I would say. So this is very quick, and most of the companies are asking for ease of use. Otherwise, it's a hassle to change culture. Also, it's a hassle to make this a trusted software for the IT guys or people at the companies, so they can easily select the gloves, colors, etc. to teach the algorithm. They don't need any coding or anything else. They can just select those and they can just start using the system. So I think identifying risks are somewhat easier with this system, but another thing is what you do after identifying those risks. So taking action, taking actions to implement changes at your company is very important. For this case, for instance, you can see that In the small picture, you can see that a pile of steel pipes, and people are working on those pipes most of the time, and the system can create alerts, again, like maybe 20 times for a day for this company, and you can use the communication tool included in the software easily, and you can just communicate between the teams, and you can just communicate between the top management, etc. And you can use the task management module as well, so that you can follow your actions at the software. And I mean, you can see the impact here. I mean, I mentioned that they were getting like 15, 20 alerts per day for this case, and after they implemented the changes, they implemented the retraining, they are not getting alerts for this case at this site anymore. So you can always use this case by case, but also you can use this to compare between teams for the same place, or compare between shifts, for instance. In this case, you are seeing a real data from our 1.5 year period, and we have identified that for the night shifts, the risks are doubled in Turkey. So basically, for the night shifts, you can see that area controls is not a problem, because basically at nights there is less movement at the manufacturing plant, but you can see that personal protective equipment usage cases and also housekeeping related alerts are really high for the night shifts. That might be a sign of lack of supervision at night, I don't know, maybe, or just that might be a sign of being more relaxed at night shifts, so that the company can take action, can provide trainings, or maybe the company is not providing enough protective equipments for the night shifts, I don't know. They can take actions like that. So basically, we are providing a new way of working for the EHS teams that's working really good so far. And I will conclude, but I would like to provide you some statistics as well for the first 1.5 year period. We currently online around 2 different locations for this project in 22 different cities and coming from 13 different industries. And so far we have analyzed like 16 million hours of data, and we are protecting, we are reaching more than 150,000 people with this project. In the first 1.5 year period, the system created more than 25 million alerts, and 3.1 million of those alerts can be considered as high-risk alerts. So we are sure that we most probably protected some people to get injured, or protected some accidents in this period. Currently, the system is processing 22 billion images per day. So it's, incredible, because it's 24/7 on 200 different locations. So I will conclude, but maybe I can just touch one last point, if I have just a couple of minutes. The psychological safety is also very important. Also, doing this together in collaboration with the workers, with the labor unions, is very, very important for us. And most of the time, employees or the labor unions are, I think they are worried about the ethical use of AI. They are worried about the intentions of the use at the workplaces, and they are basically worried about the privacy and transparency of this kind of systems. Basically, with this system, we are not providing any, identifiable data for the companies. Sometimes they are asking for it, but this is fully compliant with GDPR rules. This is fully compliant with a couple of the hardest standards in the industry. We are not providing any face recognition. We are not providing any IDs, etc., to make sure that they feel safe with using, the employees feel safe with using this system. Actually, you can see that the older guy, older gentleman in the picture is the president of the biggest confederation of labor unions in Turkey, representing more than 1 million employees in Turkey, and just giving he was just giving an award to the Intensai representative in this picture for this project. So they are very happy about it. Only just one thing, and I'm just concluding. Sometimes, in not Turkey, this case is not from Turkey, but sometimes in some countries they are even asking for more anonymity. We are not providing anything about faces, etc., but you can just identify that this is a guy or girl, you can just identify that this is her height, his height, etc. Then you can just basically identify the people. And we have, our technology partner have implemented a one-of-a-kind technology, and as you can see here, and they are replacing the real image with a 3D animation so that you can understand the case, you can understand the alert, you can understand the actions in the footage, but you cannot see the gender or you cannot see the identification items for the people in the picture. So basically, I think this is my last slide, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. A symposium on a digital future for health and safety without involving a real tech company would, of course, be impossible. So I now turn to, and we also take care of the gender balance, I now turn to Andresa Hernandez from Siemens. And we already learned that a successful project needs collaboration, needs a joint effort, but my guess is that it also requires a kind of learning curve, learning path, and an innovative mindset. Right, Andresa?
Exactly. So, hello everybody. So, basically, transformation is not something new for Siemens, right? So it's the core of our business for more than 175 years. So today I will share a little bit this work. What we are doing. For Siemens, transformation means a lot, is, as I said, is in our core. But it's also connected to one of our priorities, strategic priorities as a business. It's technology with purpose. So our technology is supporting the world to be developing, to change the life of billions of people, but also a life of our people, because we also are facing different things every day. So how do we do this? We combine the real world with the digital world to provide solutions not only for the society, but also for our people. But I will not talk too much about that. I want to show you something. Here we go. Siemens released a video that summarizes a little bit our purpose and how we are work with this combining health and safety, or combining, in this case, the real and the digital world.
Can we do something about this?
Oh, there's definitely something that can be done about this.
Okay. By when?
Our consensus says by 2030.
Well, let's make it 2030 tonight. Clock's ticking. Let's go. Let's combine the real and the digital worlds to make big changes for everyone.
Can we do something about the music?
How's this?
That's better.
Very good. But don't we do something about replacing these?
On it. First comes a digital twin of the factory. Then you optimize it, so you can build the real one that produces batteries in record time. Here you go.
I'm happy. What about you?
Well, actually, can we do something to make the city more livable?
Got some ideas?
But can you make them happen?
Well, yeah. How about using data and AI to transform urban life to be smarter and more energy efficient? Even updated your suit.
Whoa, thanks.
What about trains?
Yeah. Again, using a digital twin to help design and build a real hydrogen-powered train.
Can you do my homework for me? Please do not help him with that.
Wait, who are you?
Siemens.
I'm very proud of this because it's 175 years transforming, support the society to transform. But it's not only outside, but also look inside. So this year, in my strategic priorities, I would say, for last fiscal year, we decided we would put a major focus on learning to ensure high level of literacy, digital literacy for our professionals. We are talking about 1,400 EHS professionals in our organization globally. And to be able to harness this digital technology in a way to control risk, to transform and advance our operation, we need to understand, we need to know how to talk with our tech guys, how to combine this real world of safety with the digital world that we can bring together. And with this, we partnership with Cameron Stevens from the Safety Innovation Academy, where we create 6 months with videos and webinars to talk about technology, bring technology to the OSH professionals. We talk about digital twins, we talk about AI, extended reality, and so on. For this year, we start already looking to this, okay, now we need to close the gap. We need to develop something for our leaders, because they are responsible for the risks, right? It's not the EHS professionals. We can give them tools, but it's about them to take the lead and make the transformation. So we are partnering again with Cam Stevens, and we will develop what we call digital safety tech for leaders. And this will really open a space for conversations where people can exchange the safety folks with the leaders to mitigate risk, to harness the value that the technology can bring to us. To sum this up, we have our more than 15 hours of learning, digital learning, available in our platform. Every single Siemens employee can access and learn about digitalization, learn about technology and the impact of the technology in health and safety. Because I truly believe that learning is the foundation for a digital safety transformation. And we need to have the support. We need to have the space for experimentation. And we do have. If we bring ideas of technology, you need to also create a space, safe space, for people to try. We saw some of these topics here that the colleagues before me present, so virtual reality safety training, video surveillance app, remote audit, ergonomics, AI for safety, wearables technologies, assisted reality, AI, data, machine learning. But let's take a little bit here. I will focus on 3 major projects that we have. First one that I really like is our VR trainings. We are using a user-friendly software. Everybody is able to create their training. We don't need an expert on that. We have a 360 degrees camera, and we integrate our risk assessment, we integrate our method statement, and then we can have footage of the real work, not digital, that is the people cannot connect. I can do this in a customer site, I can do this in my own premises. The other one was going remote. We all went to the pandemic, and we had implemented this approach for the smart glasses way before. And this was an amazing advantage for us, while during pandemic we had, as all world, We went to lockdown, but our operation continued going because we also we do services for key business, so key pharmaceuticals, key transportation, so hospitals, right? So we could not let our people home because the society need us. And using the smart glasses and this remote technology, we were able to guide them, support with risk assessment totally in our houses, in our home offices. So this is really democratization of technology. Give this to the accessibility for everybody working. Another one that I love is the ToMake app. Together with a startup, we start to work, how can we use app to simplify ergonomic analysis? And here we use a lot the expertise to support and simplify our way of looking to the very complex and complicated ergonomic assessments that can be. But of course, we cannot do this by ourselves, so we are always looking for collaboration. As I said before, we partnership with Cameron, we work with smart glass companies. So it's really accessing and make this not a Siemens topic, but a society topic. So we are about to launch a paper together with the EUOSHA on monitoring works with the remote application, but not in terms of control, in terms of prevention. I hope I could guide you a little bit here today, 10 minutes. I could talk hours about that. So I will be around, so if somebody wants to talk a little bit more, or we have also a question. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andresa. I know all our speakers can talk for hours about this topic, but in a world so full of paradoxes, with some companies, organizations ahead of the pack and others trailing behind, Wolf, you are probably the best place to see some global trends in all of this. So.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank the IOE for organizing and inviting me to the panel. And a great job so far from my colleagues. So I will like to take a global look at this from a geographical perspective, but also from a topical perspective. And first of all, I'm not going to go into detail. I think we know in terms of what's going on in terms of macro trends. But this recently came out in the Lancet, and it kind of caught my attention. And one of the top ones mentioned, no big surprise, is the influence of technology on the nature of work. So we're all faced with that challenge. This is kind of the major one, right? Like the trend, that major work-related trend that we have seen in the last 3-4 years. Working location, hybrid, office or on-site, or 100% virtual. And obviously, technology has really enabled this change or trend. So let me ask you, how many of you work hybrid? So a split between on-site and yeah, it's probably a majority. How many work on-site 100%? Yeah, it's a fair share. And how many work virtual or remote 100%? That's probably the smallest group. Interesting, yeah. So as you can see from this research, Gallup, right? We probably all know Gallup as one of the biggest databases on health and well-being. And they asked the survey respondents, if given the option, if there's an option to work remotely, how often would you like to work at the office? And as you can see here, the majority say they would like to go to the office, but only like 2 to 3 days, or maybe less than 2 days. So that's the vast majority do want to have a hybrid setup. So I think that's a trend, right, which is there. It's not going to go away. So this is from Deloitte, and they came out with kind of looking at the opportunities and a framework for how to kind of harness the trend that we are facing. And they put it into like 3 major categories: measuring and management, so that you kind of use the technology to gain insights and kind of clarify, patterns and so on, and making it more effective. Then obviously working in new ways, that's another major category. And then even the office, making it more intentional, like as a hub for, as you can see here, for meeting, for getting together and being creative, right? I think we're seeing more of that. So that's kind of a suggestion for the future for the digital workplace, how to make it really effective and health promoting, I should say, for the employees. But I'll get into that a little bit more. I'd like to show you some trends, I guess, or common factors from the global data that I'm kind of more or less the custodian of through the Global Healthy Workplace Awards program. So we have close to 400 employers now. As you can see from the award winners, these are just the winners, right? Various different sectors, multinational, large, small, and medium-sized. Some really, really interesting companies, all the way from Silicon Valley startups to a research center in Nairobi, Kenya. So it's fascinating data, and these are good practices. These are really good practices in terms of creating a healthy workplace. I won't go into the details because I don't have time, but in terms of comprehensive approach. And so looked at that data and kind of drew out a couple of technical elements, if you will, or technology, how it was used. You've probably all seen this, all use it, I'm sure. If I would ask you how many of you don't use any of these, there are probably no hands in the room. So this is not new, but we can see that these employers, right, the good practices, use very heavily digital well-being platforms, right? And a lot of these other factors are either part of the platform or they could be separate in terms of like apps. We all use apps. There's so many millions almost of well-being apps, right, that you probably use yourself. That's another discussion, but we could talk about the effectiveness of those and how they really interact, how it works, Just quickly going through them: wearables, digital coaching, and online counseling. I think we've seen a lot of that. Really interesting development, especially over the last 2 years with COVID, or after COVID, with the demand for mental health support. Yes, right. I think that's really massive, and that's going to continue to grow. So those are some of the factors. Just to show you another kind of model. This is from the United States, and this gets in a little bit more detail. I won't go into detail too much because I don't have time, but I just wanted to show you what we see here in terms of the various areas, what an employee, kind of touches or is confronted by or during his or her career, right? So at the workplace. So mental health support, career development, physical fitness, parenting and caregiving, and all the way to financial well-being, right? And so we can see various interventions here where technology is currently playing a massive role, right? And sometimes they're, again, what I said earlier, sometimes they're all together and integrated in a platform. Sometimes they have various ways from different access points, which is not always advantageous, but it does happen. And I won't go into detail again for lack of time, but it just gives you an idea for some of the interventions that companies provide these days, heavily relying on technology. Let's get into some of the risks and benefits. Let me ask you, what are some of the risks of using technology at the workplace with regard to health and well-being of the employee? Any ideas? Just shout it out loud. Risks. Let's start with risks. Sorry. Yeah. Anything? Incorrect information going to the employee. Great. Very good. Yeah. Right. You can't all do it virtually. Physical exam is needed, so that's, lacking. Any others? All right, let's move to benefits. What are the benefits of using technology? Some are obvious. We heard from from our previous speakers, from my colleagues here, that you know, there was a lot of stuff in there for benefits, if you paid attention. Yes, please.
See the unseen.
Say again?
See the unseen.
Okay.
You can see the unseen.
Yeah, they can see the unseen. Yes, good point. Yeah, we definitely saw that in the demonstration. Very good. Any others? Benefits on the right? Yes.
Better collection of data and more real time.
Yes. Better collection, more data, and real time. Real time is a good one. Very good. Maybe one more. Anybody else? In the back. Yes. Connect to experts that you might not otherwise have access to. Yes. Yes. Good point. Right. Remote location. Right. Very relevant here in Australia. So. Again, I won't go through all of these, but I think these are some good ones. Benefits reach, personalization, right? Making it really personal to the individual. Engaging more, integration of the various data sources, the real time, we heard that. Yeah, just a pure amount. On the risk side, privacy, I'm surprised nobody said that. That's a big concern in some countries. I definitely know that from Germany, where I'm from. It's a big concern. Insufficient evidence of effectiveness. I don't think we still have, or we don't have yet, I should say, enough evidence in terms of the effectiveness of online or technological interventions. Sometimes over-reliance. I know a number of companies that I've worked with that they say, oh, we have a global program, and they have a global platform, and they really rely on it for everything. So there's a little bit of risk there, I think. Lack of equity, not everybody has access to it. And you could look at that in various country-wise or population segment-wise. That's very important. Tech fatigue, information overload, and then the blurring, right? The continued blurring of work and personal. So a couple more slides here. This is some data from various sources which have looked at the impact on health of technology and digital tools on the individual and employees in this case. So here, this is from EU OSHA, it was a pulse survey just last year. Would you say the use of digital technologies in your workplace has, right, and then yes, determine the speed, so there was a large number that it determines the speed and pace. Results in you working alone, so there's a little bit of isolation, right? We all know about working at home. Increasing surveillance of you at work, that's a concern. Increasing the workload, I thought that was interesting. The numbers go down a little bit. And then reducing your autonomy at work too, which is very important in terms of psychosocial factors. Different data source. The OECD, by the way, has great data. If you've probably followed that, or hopefully. They also are taking more and more of a look at AI, and I haven't even really touched upon AI, but that's okay. And one of the questions was the impact of AI and performance and working conditions, and they looked at performance, equipment, enjoyment, sorry, physical health, and what's the other one? Mental health, sorry, that's a little hard to read. So anyway, so you can see from the kind of the bottom green, dark green, light green is positive. I'll keep it really simple here. And then if you go further up, especially the reds are the negative, and then the other one is the don't know. So it's actually pretty positive, right? Especially in terms of performance. 70% think it's performed, and it's increased their performance quite a bit. You know, and then also the enjoyment, enjoyment has increased, so that's good. And mental health is the lowest one. And then one more in terms of concerns, share of the users of AI who said they worry about their privacy. And we can see here the different countries they picked out, in this case from the OECD. And there is concern, right? And again, the red and orange is quote unquote bad, or they worry about privacy. And it's kind of, you know, Ireland is the highest, and maybe some of you come from some of these countries and can try to figure out if you think that's accurate in your sense, but it's really interesting to see the different data. So bottom line, there is concern. There is concern in terms of data privacy, and I think one of previous speakers has already mentioned that. So we need to take care of that. And then finally, the last slide that I have here, I did want to mention that technology is a tool, right? And it can enhance certain processes. It definitely speeds them up. But it really comes down to some of these base, quote unquote, basic or core, I should say, core factors of psychosocial domains, right? And that that's kind of going full circle because Chris up front mentioned trust and respect, right? So this is very close to that. And I know this was a major focus here at the conference for good reason. So, how much influence you have at work, are you socially supported, how predictable is your work, are you being recognized in terms of what you do, rewards, right? Meaning and purpose, very big. And then, workload and having a balance of demand. So it really comes back down to that, to really harness the overall technology and AI and so on. Okay, I think that's done. Thanks a lot, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Wolf. I don't know if you noticed, but the benefits and the risks, none of them are intrinsic to the digital technology, not even the privacy thing. But meanwhile, I saw in the app that quite a lot of people posted some questions. So we are going to take some of the questions. I just asked the panel to answer them as briefly as possible so we can get as many questions answered as possible. A lot of the questions actually go to you, Dennis. And the first question is, can Intense AI be used also in a dynamic work environment? A lot of what you showed was, let's say, more a static work environment, warehouse, manufacturing. Dynamic work environment?
I can try to answer this as far as I know, because this is maybe a question for our technology partners, but the quick answer is yes. But I mean, there needs to be certain conditions to do that. I mean, you can use this in construction sites. You can use this even on the ships, for instance. If you have a camera in there, then you can use it, basically.
Okay. So Abigail, talk to Dennis after the session if you want more details. Next question also to Dennis, but maybe there is a quick answer to that. Can Intense AI also monitor fatigue risks in, for example, night shifts? I would say probably wearables are a better thing there, because before something becomes visible, there are already other indicators of fatigue that will not be noticed by a camera, but can be noticed by wearables. And I see the people.
All right.
Then there is an interesting question. I think this is about the SMEs, where somebody says they are so preoccupied with production and deadlines, they don't have the time to even start to explore the opportunities here. So what can we do there? Andresa?
This is exactly one of the major reasons that we have.
Just talk.
So I will talk loud. So this was one of the major reasons. Thank you. Was one of the major reasons that we start to promote the digital safety literacy, that people will understand how technology can support and be more focused. So this, if you invest time to learn, you will see that you can gain speed and productivity also for the OSH professionals, not only for the business.
Okay, and I think we should not generalize, but actually, I think actually a lot of those small businesses are ahead of the pack when it comes to using digital technology. And also, I think an interesting approach to this could be if you offer a kind of no cure, no pay consultancy and say, yeah, I can help improve your organization by including your production, managing deadlines. And there is no, if you don't think it works, there is no pay. So it's a free consultancy unless it's obvious that there is a benefit, then you will pay for the service. That is a possibility. I see Jennifer agreeing to that. Let's see what else do we have in the questions. There was a question about health surveillance. What I made a reference to, but it was not exactly about health surveillance as in seeing an occupational physician. What I mentioned was, again, real-time data offered to the worker about his exposure or health situation. So augmenting his possibilities to act himself. Actually, that is something I want to share with you, because I know the GDPR privacy things are always popping up. But for me, a very good approach is to only feed the data to the worker himself. Of course, the worker needs to be trained. But this data provides him with information for himself to make decisions on the way he's working, on his safety situation, or on his health condition. It's a bit difficult to convince employers to invest in technology where they will not get any information and data, not even anonymized. But if you can convince an employer in doing that, and the collectivity, the workers, they will start talking among themselves. After a very short period of time, all of them are using this information to the benefit of themselves. We can take another question.
Chris, can I just add to that?
Yes, of course. Please step in.
One of the issues we're seeing here in Australia is privacy concerns. So we've had a lot of cyber attacks on, Optus and Medibank, and so biological monitoring or health surveillance data now is something that we're going to have to work extra hard to earn the trust back for workers, and particularly with the unions, really making a convincing case when we want to look at using it for heat stress, for instance. So we do that quite often in Australia. There's a lot of extreme heat climates, and we're really looking at adapting that technology to help with those scenarios, but without building that trust and then addressing the cybersecurity concerns and all of that side, we're going to really struggle to adopt the technology moving forward.
Indeed. Maybe a question here to Ross. Can all that collecting of data also be used to mitigate unsafe behavior?
Well, I assume this is working. Yeah, well, a lot of the data, I suppose we're looking at better design and upstream planning, and hopefully out of that comes more engineered controls as opposed to relying on human behaviour at a workplace level. And there's probably infinite examples that come up from a technology point of view, just as simple as people and plant separation. If the plant stops when it detects a person, we've engineered the behaviours out. Okay, thank you. I know these people, so my guess is they will still be around after this symposium if you want to have a more in-depth discussion with them. I have one final speaker for this session. It will be very short, but I now turn to the person who is actually representing the International Organization of Employers here. That's Pierre Vincencini.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I hope you've enjoyed the session and the conversation so far. And I hope also that we will go back home with some key takeaways from this session. For us, it is really important to rebalance a bit the overly negative narrative on digitalization. Of course, we need to address the risks associated with digitalization, but we must also highlight the opportunities it brings and harness its full potential. Without denying the facts, denying the threats, we need to move beyond anxiety-provoking consideration and work together to find appropriate solutions, including through social dialogue, as it was mentioned before. This symposium is an illustration of what we do at the International Organization of Employers. For those who are not familiar, IOE is the largest global private sector network representing 50 million businesses through 150 national organizations of employers in over 140 countries. Since its creation in 1920, IOE has been supporting and representing the worldwide business community in international labor and social policy forums across the multilateral system and in other high-level forums. IOE, and it's important to notice that, also runs company networks such as the Global Occupational Safety and Health Network. The GOSH, as we call it, provides a unique platform for sharing guidance and exchanging experiences and best practices on OSH developments. I will stop there, and please join me in warmly thanking our brilliant panelists, so Wolf, Andresa, Denise, Jennifer, and Ross, and also our brilliant moderator, Chris, and thank you very much for your attention.
And as I am the moderator, you get the 5 final lines from me. Explore the opportunities, a jointly managed process, so an open dialogue between labor and management. Build trust, extend respect, be inspired. Thank you.